our second part. Hi, my name is Jessica, and thank you for attending How to Make Money from Your Idea webinar, Part 2. There are many things you will want to consider when trying to license your new product. On our agenda today, we will have 3 segments, followed by a Q&A, and then final conclusion. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box, and if we run out of time, we will follow up with you one-on-one. And now I would like to introduce my panelists. The first panelist is Andrew Gordon. He is a lead designer for Innovate Product Design, our U.S. office, and after spending the last 2 years leading a design team in our UK office. He is a product design graduate of Bournemouth University School of Design and Engineering, and has also worked as an industrial designer for the multidisciplinary creative consultancy Markton Design in Dusseldorf. Our second panelist is Larry Udell, and he is the founder of the California Invention Center, as well as the founder of over 30 corporations and inventor organizations. He provides consulting to both startups and Fortune 500 companies. He also lectures frequently at inventor, corporate, and government functions throughout America for the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, as well as in other countries for the World Intellectual Property Organization. And our last panelist is Allison Gale. Allison is Innovate Product Design's new product development advisor who works with clients introducing their product or idea to market. With a business studies degree and a postgraduate qualifications in both marketing and purchasing, Allison has a deep understanding of the motivations and requirements of companies when looking and deciding on new products. And now Andy is going to be speaking to you about design and development. Andy?
Great, thank you, Jessica. As Jess said, my name is Andrew Gordon, and I'm a product designer for Innovate Design USA. Today I'll be talking to you about the importance of design and development, in particular for licensing. As an individual inventor or a startup, it's particularly important not only to think up this innovative idea, but to be able to present it clearly and concisely to an investor or someone that's going to actually license the product. Normally to design a product for manufacture, it can be quite a lengthy process and particularly costly for an inventor. There's many things to carry out prior to bringing a product to market, which can be, again, expensive and lengthy. Some of the stages include the initial of the design process, include the concept stage, prototyping, design for manufacture, further production prototyping, manufacture itself, overseeing that, distribution. There's often several iterations of each part to ensure that the product is as close to perfect as possible. In order to limit spending at this early stage, licensing is often the best option for inventors. By no means the only option, but often the best. One of the most cost-effective preliminary ways to do this is to gain interest from a company or investor by visualizing your concept in order to get feedback or a licensing deal. I'm initially going to start with a quick poll just to see where you are with at what stage of the process you are. So if you don't mind just clicking on what is the most applicable to you, and we'll go over the results shortly. So we basically got there the patent or provisional patent, whether you completed design work, completed the prototype, or if you're already in contact with companies or people that you're potentially going to license with. Okay, great. So as you can see there's not many that have completed the prototype or are currently in contact with companies. Everyone seems to have completed design work, which is fantastic, and you'll probably understand what I'm going to be talking about today, of the importance of that. And 50% of you have filed for a patent or a provisional patent, or you have one in place. So that's fantastic, and also extremely important when you are approaching companies, as you want to have protection in place. So I'm going to continue with my presentation and talk to you a little bit about Innovate product design and how we can actually help in our process. So in order to help an individual to license a product, we do 3 presentation boards in particular, which we find are really effective when presenting your idea. The first of which, as you can see on the screen there, is a beauty shot of the product. This project, we've got to say thank you to Keno Shaw, one of our US clients. This project is Pizza Fritter, and he's allowed us to use this project as a showcase today. So we'd have a beauty shot, which really shows the product in context. You want this to gain interest from someone, and they can see exactly what the product does. As you can see here, Pizza Fritter segments your frying pan so you can cook different foods within it. Really innovative idea, nice, clean and clever. Following on from a beauty board, we'd show a detail board. The detail board itself shows all the important factors of the product. So it will show parts, the key functionality, maybe how it goes together, something like a nice color range. And as you can see here, that clearly and concisely shows your product idea and all the details of that, which we find that an investor will want to know. The next board is the user board. The user board will show you how someone interacts with the product, or potentially how it goes together. This is particularly important to investors, as they want to know in what scenario it's going to be used, how easy it is for someone to actually use. So these 3 presentation boards are particularly good for pitching the idea, whether that's a physical pitch or whether it's over email or the internet, which I'll go into in a little bit more depth later. So the benefits, like I said, I've covered some of the benefits, but it shows that your idea is more than an idea. It's a well thought out product design. It shows that you've taken it seriously. You've come to a professional product design consultancy, and they've taken the time to go over, really reiterate with you. You're very much part of the process, so you'll know the decisions we've made and why we've made them. You'll be involved in that. The presentation material is obviously professional. We use a lot of software that a lot of individuals don't have access to, or we're all trained for a long period of time to actually use the software and the design itself. Also, as you can see, it's photorealistic, so we try and make it look as real as possible, because at this stage it is a visualization, so you haven't actually physically made the product. Following on from that, we can also help with prototyping. Prototyping in particular is good if you want to test the functionality, if you want to potentially see how it looks, that kind of thing. There's several types of prototypes that are very good for when you're pitching an idea. You have like a marketing model, it's purely how it looks. You have a proof of principle prototype, which is how it's actually going to work. It might not necessarily look how it's going to look, but how it's going to work. You also have almost a marketing model which can do both. And it's really nice because you can have a physical product to show someone and you can actually demonstrate with it. It also gives investors an appreciation of size and weight and form and function, and is often a key selling point whenever you're pitching. It's not necessarily necessary, and it is an additional cost, but sometimes it's nice to have this physical product in front of you when you are pitching. So there's several ways that you can present this. We offer our packages both physically, so you have these physical presentation boards, and we also give them to you in JPEG and PDF format. So you can go along and have a face-to-face meeting with a company. You can pitch these boards in like a Dragon's Den or Shark Tank style scenario. You can also email these presentation boards in JPEG format. So if you're not able to get along and actually present this physically, you can send them across once your protection is in place, and hopefully a company has signed an NDA with you. Alongside that, you can do things like video conferencing. So similar to what we're doing today, you can share your screen, you can talk about the presentation itself. If you had a prototype, you could show them on the screen how it works. It's often better in a face-to-face scenario, but it's often the case that you can't actually physically get there. Next, I'm going to cover basically the different ways of doing this are important, and how you pitch it. And I think Larry and also Alison is going to cover that with you shortly. So I'd like to thank you again for tuning in today, and if you've got any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. And I'm just going to pass over to Larry now, who's going to talk to you about being prepared and preparing for the presentation.
Unmuted.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, good morning. One of the very critical factors and ingredients in being successful in the licensing world is to be prepared. Before you consider licensing options, here's what you need to consider. Make sure you have filed some form of protection with the USPTO in the United States or in your nation's patent office. A self-addressed sealed envelope to yourself is of no value. I still continue to hear from inventors that they've mailed it to themselves. No value. In the U.S., you can file a provisional patent application for only $130. Now, this gives you some protection for a year by virtue of the fact that the date is registered with the patent office. But prior to the end of that year, you must file a full application. Otherwise, if it expires, it becomes public domain and you lose rights. Companies you approach will not look at your invention unless some sort of legal protection is filed. Consider the fact that they are obligating themselves with liabilities if they look at something and then come out with a similar product in the future. So in all cases, almost all cases, you will have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which you've probably heard about already, an NDA, which will protect them and in many cases protect you from any potential legal actions. Also, when going to a meeting to discuss licensing, by all means do not go alone. And I'm not saying you should just take anyone. You need to take someone who fully understands your invention, can make notes, and if any potential problems in the future, they can testify on a witness stand on your behalf. If possible, you can take your patent attorney, providing they don't charge you too much money for going to the meeting. But make sure that whoever goes with you is fully aware of the contents and what it is you plan on doing and presenting in the way of a new invention. Also, well, okay, all I'm saying is the licensing meeting is critical, and you must consider it from the standpoint of this is an opportunity that you hopefully could make you very successful, but at the same time, be sure that you're prepared. That's it for now. Okay.
Excuse me, bear with me. My computer just went a little bit bonkers. So give me 2 seconds. And now Alison Gale is going to be speaking about how to contact potential licensees.
Hi, my name's Alison, and I'm going to be taking you through information on how to find and contact potential licensees. So first of all, how to find potential licensees. You need to really understand who the key players are in the industry that you're looking to have your product in. And by players, I mean companies. That could be retailers, manufacturers, the key brands in the company. Really understand who the people are that are working in this industry, who have the products out there and who are selling them. Undertake some market research. Really think about who the customers are that may be buying your product. What are their demographics? What are their lifestyle like? What are their needs and what are their wants? And also really think about where they're buying products from currently, why are they buying it, and just kind of what their motivations are. Visit all the stores and channels that they may be buying products through, so the independent stores, the national chains, regional chains, the big box retailers, and also home shopping and internet retailers. All this information is going to really help you identify companies that you might like to take your product to. There's also many business networking sites out there, and we've got a list of some there, such as LinkedIn, who have over 75 million business users, Hoover's, a directory database now with over 65 million companies listed, ZoomInfo, which is a searchable online directory where you can search companies' database by company name or maybe industry keywords or location. And Zing, for those that don't know, is like a mini version of LinkedIn. Also, look at trade associations, trade events and trade magazines. These will be full of the main companies in each of the industries with all the news on new products coming out. And also think about looking at the consumer media and find out what products consumers are talking about and looking for and enjoying and liking. Other things to look at could be trend analysis reports, that type of thing, just so you can see what's happening in the market and where the market's going. And also government agency statistics and consumer and market reports. Also, you could look at reference sections at libraries and other databases, and also social media is very important with bloggers in industries talking about products out there and what the market's looking for and who the big companies are that are out there manufacturing the products that you could approach. And finally, look for any innovation, open innovation events. For instance, in 2009 and since then, P&G, Procter & Gamble, over half of their new products have come from outside ideas. So there are companies out there actively searching for new ideas from outside, outside product designers, new ideas from outside. When you're looking at companies, consider all size of companies to begin with, just so you can get your full list together. Mid-sized companies can sometimes be a better option. They're looking for new ideas to develop their market share, to overtake the market leaders perhaps. The larger companies can have their own in-house R&D departments, which means they don't always take as many ideas from outside, but they are certainly worth looking into because, as I said before, P&G are an example of companies that do take ideas from outside. And smaller companies sometimes may not have the resources or the funding to take ideas on, but they're all worth an initial review and study to find out if they are relevant for you. And it's important to show any company you approach just how your idea can give them a competitive advantage over their competition. So now moving on to research and preparation. So this is before you would approach the companies. Really study the marketplace, understand what products are currently out there on the marketplace, those that do the same function as yours might, or those that do a very similar function to your product. You must have a very good understanding of what's out there before you start approaching companies. Know your product inside out and look at how it compares with others in terms of features, benefits and price. One very important thing to have in place is a one-line key benefit, and that's a clear and concise, powerful statement on your product and its benefits that you can just summarize everything in one statement to really grab somebody's attention. And we're going to run a quick poll on that now just to find out how many of you do have a key one-line benefit statement in mind, or that you'd be able to kind of come up with one. So we're just going to run a quick poll, and if you could just answer yes or no, that would be great. They're very important, the one-line benefit statements, because you need to be able to get your key benefits across succinctly. When you put a call into these companies, you won't always have, well, you won't have 20 minutes for them to kind of listen to you to try and get to the point. You need to be able to clearly articulate how your idea is going to benefit them and their customers. And it's just the way to get your foot in the door. And once you've got them bought in and wanting to know more, that's the point when you can then kind of send more information through. But to get that initial the initial feedback, the initial interest, it's important to have the one-line benefit. And I think we're just going to have the poll results coming through in just a second, and I can share those with you. Okay, so the results are that 80% of you are saying yes, which is great news, but there is a 20% out there saying that you haven't quite got one yet. And I think it's just important to really understand how important they are, just because that's going to be your main, when you're making your first contact in, it's one of the main things you need to get across to companies. And just to identify some key features of a one-line benefit statement, it needs to identify the one big benefit, and that is usually to the end user. They're quite short, maybe kind of 25 words maximum. They're concise. Think about a TV advert tagline perhaps. They're specific. They're not generic. They're not just like, oh, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It has to be very specific to the product and in easy to understand language. For instance, an iPod one-line benefit statement might be 1,000 songs in your pocket. So it just kind of gives a really good indication of the benefit and gains interest from people that you're speaking with. Something you have to consider before you approach companies is IP protection, and Larry's obviously discussed that already. And then be prepared for questions. And again, this is just knowing as much as you possibly can about your product, what it's competing against, and who you will be approaching to discuss it. So they may ask you, how will it be manufactured? How much will it cost to manufacture? So you need to consider this. You don't need to be an expert in manufacturing, but you do need a good basic understanding of the materials, the processes, and maybe the associated costs involved in manufacturing or packaging the product. And also consider the technology requirements. Who's the target audience and how large is that potential market? You can go into a company and give them your idea, but it's also very good if you can go in and say, okay, this is the audience, and have some idea about sizing the market. Okay, so this is all the mums with children over age 5, for instance, and I think this percentage would be interested in the product, just so you can give them some idea that you've thought about the size of the market, and also to convince them that there is actually the market out there. So try and put some potential sales volumes together, and also consider how much the end users are going to be prepared to pay for the product. And that comes back to the earlier feature about knowing how your product compares on the features, benefits and price. So moving on to actually making the contact. Research each company and their products. This is the company that you're actually approaching individually now. Learn as much as you possibly can about each one. Each of your approaches needs to be tailored to each of the companies that you're speaking with. You can look at their company reports, annual reports, you can do web searches on them, attend trade events, start chatting to them at trade events. They don't need to know perhaps who you are, what you're thinking of. You can just go along and get a general understanding of their company and how they operate. And you need to ensure that your idea does fit within their capabilities in terms of manufacturing and maybe also distribution. They need to be sure that when you approach them, you've actually done your homework and they are a good fit for your product. The next step would be to identify the key contact with each company. That can be as simple as a web search or calling into the head office and asking for the person who would generally deal with new product submissions. That's quite often the product manager, or it could be any other department, but head office would be able to direct you in the right way. And then when you make the call, and I'll come on in a second to why we think making a telephone call is the best first approach, but when you make the call, again, you need to tailor each call to their company, their market, and also their product range. You need to keep the call quite brief, say who you are, why you're calling, and what the key benefit statement is, so it's clear what's in it for them and their customers. So just some pointers: prepare the script, keep the call quite brief, keep it focused, come across as professional, perhaps call yourself a product designer rather than an inventor, be confident, and as always, persistence is going to be key. We do advise avoid leaving a message if possible. I think that the key is to, if you can't get hold of them, call again a couple more times before you leave a message, because if you don't get a call back, that obviously makes it more difficult to phone back in. And also call at the right time of day, maybe not a Monday, maybe not a Friday, in the middle of the week when they're probably less frantic on a Monday and winding down on a Friday. So why do we think to call? Because maybe you're more likely to get to the right person straight away. You know that they're aware of the product. If you send an email, you've no real idea whether they've actually seen or read the email. But if you call, you've spoken to them and they've got the information you want them to have. You can show your confidence and you can show your passion over the phone. You've also given them the chance to ask you any questions and given you the chance to give them any more information they ask for. You'll be able to gauge their interest much more easily over the phone than via an email. And you can also ask for their feedback. Even if you don't get the response you'd like and they come back with perhaps they don't feel it's for them, on the phone you've got the chance to ask them why that is and just gain as much feedback as you can. Any feedback is good feedback. And you can also offer to send more information there and then on the phone. You've really got to think that companies are only going to want to license a product, if they can put it on their existing production line quickly and easily, if they can distribute it through their existing channels, and if they can produce it at a cost and sell it at a price that's profitable. As I just mentioned, on the phone you can ask to send additional information through, and that would then generally be a sales sheet. And we've got information here we can send through if you'd like us to send you information on putting together a sales sheet. And then finally, as I mentioned before, gathering feedback. On the phone, just gather as much feedback as you possibly can if you have the opportunity. As I said, particularly if they feel it's not for them, it's a good chance to get their feedback and ask them why that is, and that will just help you develop your approaching more companies technique and also developing your product further perhaps. Okay, well thank you very much. I'm now going to hand back over to Larry, who's going to talk a little bit more about negotiating the contract once you've got a company interested. Thank you very much.
Unmuted.
Okay, Allison's message is so important. Part of what I'm going to tell you is a repeat. Negotiations. I have taught university courses on this subject, and the wrong thing said at the right time can destroy the opportunity. So let's look at some things you need to prepare for. Before entering into any negotiations, make a positive decision on what minimum upfront and royalty you will accept. In other words, don't start with $100 million or $10 million. Be realistic in recognizing the company is going to pay you for the rights to use your technology, your product. So be conservative, but at the same time, you want to be compensated for your creativity. You need to be firm on this once you decide, at least in your mind, and also the person you brought with you to the negotiating meeting. The other thing is, since hopefully you have done all your research, as Allison was pointing out, and preparation, you will know everything possible about the company. You need to know its history, its executives. Do they play golf? What is it that that company does that makes you believe they are the right company to license your technology? Or in some cases, instead of licensing, they might just want to buy it. This will help you to analyze about your new product, how it compares, how bad do they need what you have, and how willing are they to pay for it. So the negotiations is a critical factor of everything that Allison was pointing out. You need to know, once again, what it will cost to manufacture and package the finished product. This will arm you with details that will be an important factor in the negotiations. Your royalty, remember, what they're going to pay you is added to the product cost. So if you're asking for too much money, and I've seen this happen on occasion, they're going to turn it down. They're going to turn it down because they feel that you're asking for too much and it's going to price the product out of the market. It will have a determining factor on how competitive they can be in the marketplace. They're also going to be concerned as to what competitor of theirs you're going to be talking to. Keep that in mind. The top 3 companies usually in almost every industry control about 70% of the sales of the product you're talking about. And under no circumstances, hear this loud and clear, don't let greed enter your thinking, because all it will do, and I've seen this on other occasions, it will destroy the negotiations. I have seen a major company stop in the middle of negotiations because the inventor asked for 10 times what he was coached to ask for, and the negotiations ended immediately. So based upon that, be realistic. Be understanding of their position. Don't all put it all on yourself and what you want. Make sure you can pacify and satisfy what their needs are, and you can be successful together instead of losing the opportunity. Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks, Larry, Allison, and Andy for giving some wonderful information to our attendees. And now we're going to open the floor to some question and answers. We actually have a question for Larry. It's from Kathy, and she says, I'm on my own when it comes to making decisions on which type of license is best for me, or could a patent attorney weigh in on my decision? Larry, what advice would you give Kathy?
Let's look at the wide world of licensing, which is a $150 billion a year industry, including Mickey Mouse. So the fact remains that licensing can be divided into various factors. You can license by geography, you can license by product usage, you can license by a market selection of the company. For example, you could wind up having 3, 4, 5, 6 licenses for the same technology to 6 different companies without being competitive. So the advice of the attorney in many cases, or your potential marketing guru, if you have one, will advise you that your technology fits into these various markets, and make sure you get advice from people. Don't think you know it all. Do your research, do your homework, and ask questions of people that know more than you do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Larry. That was very, very insightful. We do have another question, and this is for Andy. Andy, in your opinion, what are the most important aspects of the design that companies look for?
That's a great question, Jess. In respect to the most important, I suppose, aspects of design is very, very much individual to the idea itself. So a licensee is going to want to know what the unique aspect is, so how it functions or what kind of technology you're going to be using, and that needs to be really clear, really concise. You also need to portray that in the right way. If it's something that's already existing, it's not so much as important, but it needs to still be presented in the correct way. For example, if you had, I don't know, if we concentrate back on Keynote's your pizza fritter idea, which I presented earlier, was they'll want to know, like I said, how it goes together, how someone's going to interact with it. So it is very much individual to the product itself. So yeah, I think it is very much individual to the product itself.
Great, thanks, Andy. We have another question from Tiffany, and this question is for Allison. So, Allison, Tiffany wants to know, what is the best approach to take when trying to get a licensing deal with a company?
Hi, thank you for the question. I think the 3 probably most important things, and again, it's pulling all the information from all of our presentations this morning, basically. It's a tailored approach. So it's making sure companies can see why you've chosen them to approach them, why you feel that your product's perfect for them, what's unique about your product, and again, the key benefit statement, so they can really see why the product's right for them. Preparation, so you're knowing that your product, you know the market, and you know the company that you're approaching. It's just knowing everything you possibly can about all of those. So when you go in, you appear, you know, you have done your homework. It's obvious you've done your homework, and they can see that. And also persistence, and that's very important, because it can be the hardest part of the whole process is actually to get in front of somebody, to get them to listen to you on the phone, and to actually give you the time to discuss your product and the idea. So I think persistence is key, but also combined, as I mentioned, with preparation and also a tailored approach for each company. Hope that helps.
Wonderful. Thanks, Allison. Let's see, we do have another question from Christopher. And Christopher, this is for Andy. He would like to know, is there free software on the market for design? Anything that, you know, a person can do on their own with free design, or, you know, is it best to go to a professional?
Thanks, Jess, and thank you, Christopher. There's numerous free softwares or free software on the market that you can use. There's things like Google SketchUp. There's quite a few free surface modeling free softwares as well. One thing I would, and just completely honest, from a product designer's perspective, is these software you can download and learn to use. However, you still need to apply the professional engineering or design principles to whatever you're producing. So you might be able to produce a 3D model that might look like potentially how you'd like the final design, but whenever a product designer and an inventor get together and work alongside each other, we can really think about how the product fits together, take into consideration manufacturing processes which you might not know about or understand fully. We're working, I suppose, day in, day out with different prototyping methods, different manufacturers. We're constantly keeping an eye on new technologies. So these kind of things is we'd be able to advise you on, and we build up in 3D within our professional software. There's also a lot more scope with a lot of professional software because you're obviously paying for it. So you can save out in different formats for different manufacturers. I've got to say that absolutely download these things for individual inventors, and if you do know the manufacturing side of things, that's fantastic. But always seek the professional side of things because we'll take into consideration little details like tolerancing and particular for each manufacturer. So there is absolutely, and try them if you like, but always seek the advice of a professional.
Wonderful, thanks Andy. That's very helpful. It's great to know that there are software out there that you can do on your own, but it's also great that you can talk to professionals, if, like Larry was saying, ask people who know more things about it, so you have a wide range of knowledge, which is great. So we have a question for Larry. It is from Beverly, and she asks, what part of the licensing agreement is the most important?
All of it. I would have to respond by saying that it will depend upon who you're negotiating with in the licensing agreement. They will have their attorney in the room, and it is wise for you to have your attorney there also, but they need to know ahead of time that you're bringing your attorney. So I guess the most important part of it is the fact that you want some upfront money to cover the expense and costs that you've already incurred in protection, a prototype, and so forth. So you would like a reasonable amount of money up front. Your royalty should be based upon the net sales of the company's products. In other words, if it's going to sell for $5 and it costs them $3 to manufacture, let's say $2.50 to manufacture, your percentage of royalty is based on the $2.50. So if you were getting hopefully a 10% royalty, you would be getting 25 cents off of each product they sell. The critical part is that there has to be minimums established. If they do not meet certain minimums sales, say within 6 months or 12 months, then they have to pay you additional amount of money to maintain an exclusive agreement. If it is not an exclusive agreement, then there's far more flexibility with the company. But if they want an exclusive, they are going to have to pay for it proportionately with what the market opportunity is. I hope that may sound confusing, but I hope that answers your question.
That does, actually. That's wonderful. Great. We have another question and this is for Andy. They said that they have an idea for a new software. How is design important to me? Because usually when you think of design, you think of, a product, a tangible product. But in regards to software, how, does design play a factor into that?
Great, thanks, Jess. Again, design as a whole is very applicable to whether it's a physical product or whether it's software or an app or something like that. At Innovate, we specialize in tangible products. However, when it comes to software itself, that often still needs to be visualized. It still needs to be shown to an investor. You still need to show them, for example, with an app or with a software, how it's going to work. So whether that's a mock-up of an iPhone screen, and you show that you need this page, and then it goes to this page. So it's a visual journey, as it were. Software is quite different in respect to physical products. So I suppose you still need to visualize it. So what I'm getting at there is really the visualization of a product is the same, and the design principles will still be the same with that as well.
That's great. So obviously it doesn't necessarily matter if it's a software or if it's a tangible product. Design plays an important factor in pretty much anything in helping getting your idea across to potential companies, and so that they can actually clearly and concisely understand what your product is and how to use it. Wonderful. So it looks like we have time for one more question, and this question goes to Larry. Larry, so when an inventor is presenting or trying to speak to a company to get a licensing deal, should they come across as an inventor, as, hi, I'm an inventor and I have this great idea, or should they come across as, I'm a business, my product will fit in your business product line? How should people, present themselves?
Thank you very much for asking it. Okay, companies, and I hate to say this, but companies and corporations avoid inventors like the plague. You are not welcome, and even in their waiting rooms. The reason they avoid you is because you usually wind up having a brother that is a lawyer, and you wind up suing the company for no logical good reasons. So let me state this. My advice to inventors is, first of all, create a business card, go down to the local copymat or whoever, and for $10 you can get a business card that says you are the vice president or president or whatever of this company. Create a name, make sure the name is not already taken somewhere or trademarked, and when you go in to talk to companies about the cost of manufacturing, before you get to the negotiations on licensing, you go into the company to find out how much will it cost to make and produce this product and package it. They in turn are now talking to another company. They are not talking to an inventor. So they will be far more amiable to respond to your questions and happy to potentially do business with you. By the same token, when approaching the corporation for licensing, the fact remains that you are now a company and you have a lot of information that they don't have to waste time doing the research on, even though they may just double check anyway. But you are a company, you are not an inventor. And if they do a background check, they will find out you're a very small company, you're an individual or maybe a partnership, but at least they'll know that you've gone the extra mile to not only invest money in some protection, but to invest something in the time and funds to show that you are establishing a company and you want to do business company to company rather than inventor to company. Great question.
Thanks so much, Larry. It looks like we have one more question. So again, it's going to go to you, Larry. So just give me 2 seconds. The question is from Vlad. How risky is it to approach a company without a patent?
Unmuted.
How easy is it to approach a company without a patent? Oh boy.
Risky. Risky. Like, how risky is it?
Well, Allison could answer this too, because it's risky by virtue of the fact if you have no protection, first of all, 999 times out of 1,000, they don't even want to talk to you. They don't want to learn what you have, because if they are working on a similar product in their research department, they could be coming out with a very competitive product in the near future, and you're going to claim that they stole your idea. You have to have, logically now, think to yourself, how agreeable would you be if someone approached you with no protection on any idea and say, okay, here's what I've got, here's what you need, and here's what it's going to cost you. Be realistic. You've got to show that you have reached into your pocket, have invested some money and time and research into telling them why this invention or potential product would be of value to them. Okay.
Wonderful, great. Thanks, Larry. So that's it for our questions, but however, if you did have any other additional questions that you didn't get answered today, feel free to type them in the chat box, and we'll be able to reach out to you directly on one-on-one. So now, in conclusion, first I want to say thank you to all of our panelists, Andy, Allison, and Larry, for speaking to us today about the importance of licensing and important aspects of licensing and how to reach out to companies and so forth. So thanks so much for joining us. And also thank you for attending the second part of our webinar on how to make money from your idea. We will have more webinars in the future. The next one we are aiming for is in mid-June. So stay tuned. Keep checking out our Facebook page, Twitter, Google+. It'll announce, when we're holding the next webinar, what the topic is going to be. And again, should you have any additional questions, if you want to speak one-on-one with Allison, Larry, or Andy, or myself, please feel free to reach out to us. You can either give us a call on the phone number at 415-970-5276. You can fax us. Your questions, the fax number is 707-204-6523, or you can email us at info@innovate-design.com. And we'll be more than happy to reach out to you, set up a one-on-one phone call, or you can come into the office for a meeting, and we're here to try to help you out as much as we can. And also please do check out our website at www.innovate-design.com. Please check out our news section. It will have some great articles about stuff going on in the industry, maybe some stuff going on through our company. It'll give you information about some of our clients and kind of what they're up to. And so just keep informed. And again, I want to say thank you for everybody involved in speaking, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend.